So welcome back guys, I'm happy to see you all. So today in this particular session we will be actually talking about the waste and the sewage disposal, right? And you guys, if you guys remember that we have already talked about the biomedical waste management, right? And over there I have talked about the waste which is actually generated in our hospital settings, right? And there I have talked about various kind of bags over there. For example, the yellow category bag or red category or the blue category and the white category, right? We have already talked about that. And today in this particular session I'm going to talk about the waste which will be going into the black category, right? Remember, so I told you that if you are opening the wrapper of the, let's say, the plastic syringe, the wrapper of that particular syringe or the wrapper of the Foley's catheter or the wrapper of anything else which you are using in your community settings, that wrapper should not be going into the biomedical waste management. That is not the part of biomedical waste management, but that is a part of municipal waste. That is the part of municipal waste, and it should be disposed of in which category? Black color category, right? So today I'm going to talk about that black color category. Okay, so I will request you to read these two chapters in a sync so that you will be having a better understanding, right? So today in this session I'll be talking about the waste and sewage disposal, and this is actually coming under the municipal waste, right? Okay, so with that guys, let's begin with the very first one over here, that is the municipal waste, right? So on a broader category I can say that municipal waste is actually undertaken by the municipal, corporation waste is actually undertaken by the municipal, right? So over here we are going to talk about the municipal corporation. It is actually undertaken by the municipal corporation, so municipal corporation waste. Okay, in this municipal corporation waste, if we talk about generally on a broader category, it could be a solid waste or it could be a liquid waste. If you talk about the solid waste, okay, so let's classify it over here itself, that one could be the solid waste, right? One could be the solid waste and another one could be the liquid waste, right? Now you need to, what you need to do, you need to try to make the resemblance between your daily activities and between this waste. For an example, what kind of waste you are generating in your household, right? Link to that. So in the solid waste, usually what we are basically producing, we shall produce the garbage, right? There could be the garbage or there could be rubbish. There could be rubbish, right? In the garbage, if I am talking about, this is usually the kitchen waste, right? Your mom is preparing food, right? Peeling of the potatoes or something like that. That kind of waste will be going into the black category. Obviously in the household we are not using the black, yellow and all of those things, but that is basically the municipal waste, right? That is the basic thing. So over here, this kind of waste, this is the organic waste, this is the food waste, right? Leftover food or the peeling of the vegetables and the fruits and all of those things will be actually considered as the garbage only. So this actually is considered under the organic waste. So in the garbage we are talking about the organic waste, and generally it is actually produced from the kitchen. It is actually produced from the kitchen. So all the kitchen waste, I told you that is basically the garbage only. If you talk about the rubbish waste, right? Now you are reading in your room actually, and you are producing the waste. What kind of waste you shall produce over there? For example, you were using the pencil, right? And you were using the sharpener for sharpening this particular pencil, right? So basically that particular waste will be considered as this particular rubbish only, right? Or the paper waste, right? You are wasting the paper, for example. Okay, you are reading something but that was wrong, or you tear the paper and throw it in the dustbin, so that will be also considered as the rubbish waste. So this is the non-organic waste basically that I want to say. So this is the non-organic waste. Okay, this is the non-organic waste, and basically this is the paper waste, right? Paper or plastic waste. Okay, this will be considered under this particular category. Okay, understood. Now we are coming over to the liquid category. In the liquid category we shall say that one could be the sewage, right? And another one could be the sewage, right? Another one could be the sewage. Sewage basically this is also called as the grey water. We are talking about what? We are talking about the liquid waste now. So this is the grey water, right? And this is the black water. Okay, obviously which one is more toxicated? Obviously sewage is more toxicated, is the black water. Now broadly you can understand that if we talk about the sewage, right, this is basically the waste which is not containing the fecal matter, right? This is not containing the fecal matter, so it is not containing the fecal matter, right? Or I shall write that it is not containing the fecal waste or fecal matter, right? And here it will be containing the fecal matter. So obviously, which one will be the more toxicated? Obviously the sewage will be the more toxicated. It is also called as a black water. These names has already been asked, so these are very important. So black water, it is your sewage only, right? Okay, now we shall talk about some of the methods of the solid waste disposal, right? We shall talk about some of the methods of solid waste disposal, right? This picture we'll talk about later on. Okay, for now just forget this one. So we are going to talk about the methods of solid waste disposal. So guys, what I will be doing in this particular session, that we have once talked about the solid and the liquid. We are having the two kinds of solid waste. We are having two kinds of waste actually on a broader category from the municipal corporation category. So it could be the solid waste, it could be the liquid waste, right? And solid waste is having what? Garbage and the rubbish, and the liquid waste is having what? Sewage and the sewage. Now what are the methods of disposal of the solid waste? What are the methods of the disposal of the liquid waste? That will be gonna talk about. And there are several methods in the solid waste category disposal, and the several methods in the liquid waste category disposal. We will be talking about that. So the main purpose of this session will be to meet up with these kind of methods which we are actually having in the solid and the liquid waste disposal, right? So guys, now first of all, I'm taking on the methods of solid waste disposal. Solid waste disposal, right? So I will try to make it very, very simple over here. So methods of solid waste disposal, guys, here the first one which we are having, that is the, first of all, I'm just naming them. First one which we are having, that is the controlled tipping method, right? That is the controlled tipping method. This is also called as the sanitary landfill method. Okay, the detail we'll be talking about shortly, but for now I'm just mentioning the names over here. Second one over here, it is the incineration, right? It is the incineration. Third one over here, that is the composting. Yes, that is the composting, right? Then we are having the manure pits, right? We are having burial method, right? And the last one, that is the dumping method. Right? So we will be starting with these methods. So first of all, I will be talking about these methods of solid waste disposal. I will be talking about first one, that is the control tipping or the sanitary landfill. So let's talk about that method also, guys. So here let's talk about that particular method, right? So yeah, so in this particular method, if we talk about in the control tipping, right, what we shall talk over here. So first method which I'm going to take over here, that is the control tipping method, okay, or the sanitary landfill method. So A we are going to talk about, that is the controlled tipping method. Again guys, these methods, okay, you should be remembering these methods. They are actually coming under the solid waste disposal or liquid waste? Solid waste disposal, okay. So generally, if you are very lucky, they will be asking you these kind of question only on a very superficial level, that which of the following is a solid waste or which of the following is not a liquid waste. These kind of question might be asked. Control tipping method, guys, this is the most satisfactory method, right, where suitable land is available. Remember, where the suitable land is available. If the suitable land is not available, then we shall go for the incineration method. But where the suitable land is suitable land is available, then we shall go for this control tipping method. What is actually happening in the control tipping method? We are having three subcategory in this particular method, right? So let's find out. Actually, solid waste is actually placed in a trench and then compacted and covered with the earth at the end of the working day. So what happens is they will be making up a trench over here, right? We're making our trench over here, and then they will be filling the land over it, and they will be keeping it like that. So basically we are having three methods. One is the first one is the trench method in the control tipping method only, and the second one is the ramp method, and third one is the area method. Trench method we are using, basically, as I said, that we are making up the long trench 2 to 3 meter deep and 4 to 12 meter wide. Okay, and then what we will do is that refuse, whatever refuse we are having, what kind of refuse we are having? Solid waste refuse, right? Solid waste, it could be garbage, it could be your it could be garbage, either it could be the rubbish, right? So you will be dumping it over there, right? So you will be putting it over there in the trench, right? So they will make up a trench over there, they will dig trench over there, and then they will be putting it. After that, refuse is compacted and covered with the earth, over there. So wherever the land is available, there only you will be doing this method, right? Then we are having a, which method guys? Then we are having a ramp method. In the ramp method, what we are doing, it is suited when there is a hilly areas, terrain areas, right? Hilly areas or the terrain areas, we are using this method. We shall use this method actually. Okay, there, you know, this kind of thing is there, you know, if the mountains kind of thing is there, so we will be digging it up over here, and we'll fill the land, we'll fill the earth over here, right? So this is the ramp method. Ramp, there is a ramp and you are filling that. Okay, then there is a area method. In the area method, they are used for filling the land depressions or disused quarries or the clay pits over here. This is the method. Okay, but this is not a very good method, but basically this is the method. Control tripping method is very good where the suitable land is actually available over there, right? So we'll dig up so trench method is very commonly used. So we'll dig up a trench over there. It should be around 4 to 12 meter wide and 2 to 3 meter deep. I'll fill up the garbage or the rubbish over there, I mean the solid waste, and then fill it with the earth, right? And then that is the trench method. Okay guys, once we have talked about the control tripping method, it is also called as, right, as I told you earlier as well guys, it is also called as the sanitary landfill method. Okay, so please do not forget that as well. Sanitary landfill method has already been asked once. Okay, now we shall move on to the next method guys, right? Now we shall move on to the next method, that is your incineration, right? Yes, you know that incineration, we have already talked about that in our biomedical waste management also, that we are using the high high temperature for the incineration methods, right? So incineration, here what we are doing, refuse means the waste, solid waste basically, consider that. So incineration, the incineration what we are talking about is the refuse. It can be diffused, it can be disposed of hygienically by the burning or the incineration. Here the temperature which we are using guys, that is more than even 1000 degrees Celsius. So you can see that temperature can be very high in these kind of cases. In which one? That is the incineration method, right? And here basically we are talking about that whatever waste is there, right, it will be actually converting it into a ash, because that much high temperature we are using in the incineration, right? So here I will say one drawback is present over here, that the hospital refuse which is dangerous is best disposed of by incineration. I told you that in the biomedical waste management only. But over here, some of the products which are actually they might be causing the radiation or something like that, they will not be used, they might not be used for the incineration purpose, because they are not very good method for the incineration. But if any other option is not available, then we shall go for the incineration method. So it is actually practiced in several of the industrialized countries also, and it is not a convenient method in India, as I said, because refuse are containing fair amount of fine ash, which makes burning difficult. So if they will be containing the fine ash over there, so obviously it will be difficult for the incineration method, right, to dispose it of. So it's not a very good method in India, but still we are using it for industrialized dust, industrialized waste, and the hospital waste also, as I told you, right? For the yellow color category waste we were using of the incineration method, right? Okay, so over here temperature guys, what temperature we are using, almost around more than 1000 degrees Celsius or till 1300 degrees Celsius might be used over there, right? So that was about the incineration guys. Next category which I am moving on, that is the composting method, right? So next method which I'm going to talk about over here, that is the composting method guys. In the composting method, basically we are talking about that we are actually going to convert the organic matter or the organic waste into the compost, right? Organic matter, which organic matter? That was the kitchen waste, that was the garbage, right? So it will be converting that particular garbage, okay, that particular organic matter into the into the compost, right? So this is the method of the combined disposal of refuse and the night soil also. Combined disposal of refuse and the night soil. So composting method, okay, this is the combined method guys. Combined method, right? For combined method of disposal of for the refuse. I mean refuse means that it can be the garbage, it can be the rubbish, but basically it is garbage, right? Converting the organic matter into the compost basically. Plus with that we shall use the night soil. Night soil means the fecal waste. Night soil means the fecal waste over here. So both of them can be disposed of by this method, that is the composting method. Very important, you should know that. And here basically what we will be doing is that it will be converting the organic matter into the compost, right? So that is the category about the, like, this is the compost method. Here in this particular method, right, composting, basically we are talking about very popular method, that is the Bangalore method, right? That is the Bangalore method. So we are going to talk about now that what is the Bangalore method. Again, Bangalore method is coming into which method of solid waste disposal? That is the compost method, right? Please guys remember that. So Bangalore method we are going to talk about right now. Okay, so very easy to understand, guys. In the Bangalore method, first of all, very important point over here which I need to mention, that this is the anaerobic method, guys. Usually they are asking us that is it anaerobic method or is it aerobic method? This is the anaerobic method. First question is solved over here, anaerobic method. Second is that it is also known as the hot fermentation method, guys. It is also known as the hot fermentation, right? Okay, now here what we are doing is, here we are using the trench. Here actually the trench are used, right? Actually the trench are used over here, and they should not be more than 90 centimeter, though they should be actually lesser than 90 centimeters deep only. For an example, here is the trench, right? Here is the trench. We dig up the trench over here, right? We dig the trench. Okay, I will try to solve the mystery of the Bangalore method over here in this one. Very, very simple, guys. So this is the trench. I told you how much deep it should be. It should be not more than 90 centimeter. I told you that as well. I told you that it should not be more than 90 centimeter, right? So what should be the height I am expecting over here, right? What should be the height I am expecting over here? That is around 90 centimeters of this particular trench, isn't it? Now guys, what I will be doing, that I told you that it is the combined method of disposal of the refuse and the night soil, right? So over here what we will be doing, that we will be actually, first of all, at the bottom of this trench we will be putting the this one, refuse. We'll put the refuse over there. So let's say till here we put the refuse. After the refuse we'll put up the night soil, right? Put up the refuse. After the refuse we'll put up the night soil, like this. So over here I am saying that this is the refuse, guys. Refuse means, this solid waste, your solid waste only, that is your garbage, or that could be your rubbish also, but usually it is garbage. So over here this is the refuse, and then there is a night soil. There is a night soil. It could be fecal matter and all, right? So we are disposing of, we are combining of these two methods. Composting, in the composting we are talking about combining these two methods in the Bangalore method, basically. Okay, so this is the night soil. Then over that, so over here one more thing I would like to clear, that guys, this over here we are actually using the height of around 15 centimeters. Using the height of around 15 centimeters, and night soil height, it will be around 5 centimeters, right? It will be around 5 centimeters. So first of all, in a trench of 90 centimeter, we'll be filling the trench with the refuse of around 15 centimeter height. Then we'll fill up the soil. We'll fill up the night soil. Then again we'll put the trench. Again we'll fill up with the refuse. Again we will be filling it with the refuse. Then again we'll fill it with the night soil. Again we fill it with the night soil, right? And we'll keep on doing that. Till it fills, right? Till it fills. And what we need to remember over here is that, above that we shall go for the 30 centimeter, right? So we should be having, above the earth we shall fill it for 30 centimeter, and then we'll cover it with the earth, right? So that is the thing over here. So we need to make sure that this height should be at least 30 centimeter, right? This height should be at least 30 centimeters, I mean above the earth. Let's say here the earth comes at this point of time, right? Here is the earth, and then you will be covering it with the earth, right? Above that you will be covering it with the earth, right? You will be covering it with the earth. Okay, yeah. So this is the earth over here, right? Above the 30 centimeter of it, right? And this was the height of this was the height till here, I mean, right? 90 centimeter. This was the height of the trench in itself, right? And 30 centimeter, about 30 centimeter, you will fill it with the earth. So this is what method, guys? This is the Bangalore method, right? So over here I shall write some important point as well, that the heap will be actually covered, this particular thing I'm calling that as heap, the trench, right? This will be covered with the earth. Heap will be covered by earth, right? It will be covered by earth at last. Okay, I hope you are clear with this particular method of compost, that what we are doing in the Bangalore method, right? What is the height of the refuse? 15 centimeter. What is the height of the night soil? That is the 5 centimeter, right? So refuse, night soil, that like that will be filling up the trench, right? What will be the height of the trench? 90 centimeter, right? And above the 30 centimeter of the earth, we will be filling it with the, above the 30 centimeter of the earth surface, we will be filling it till that point of time, and then we'll cover it with the earth over there, right? At the end of 4 to 6 months, what will happen, guys? Right? At the end of 4 to 6 months, it will convert into compost. That's why we are calling this method as composting method. So what will happen at last? With the help of decomposition, it will convert it into the humus formation, right? So now at the end of 4 to 6 months, we know that decomposition will happen. Due to the decomposition, the compost will be formed. So decomposition will be completed. Decomposition will be completed, guys. Will be completed, right? And after that, it will be called as what? It will be called as compost, right? After that, it will be called as compost, right? So this is your composting method. I hope everyone is clear with that. One more thing over here, guys. Here I told you that we are actually filling the refuse and then night soil and the refuse ratio. If somebody will be asking you, then it will be around 1:3 over here, because I told you 5 centimeter night soil and 15 centimeter is the height of refuse. So that is the 1:3 only. So no doubt about that. So it will be the 1:3, right? A very simple question, right? The next thing over here is, what will be the heat production, guys? If somebody will be asking you, what is the heat production in this particular method, right? So heat production over days, it will be around more than 60 degrees Celsius, and under this temperature, the decomposition of these particular things will be happening, right? So this was all about the composting method. Now I am coming to the next method, guys, and the next method was the heap method, I guess, right? So over here, right, not the heap method, I mean the manure pits over here. So we have talked about the controlling tipping or the sanitary landfill. We have talked about the incineration, where we have talked about high temperature. Then we have talked about the composting method. There we have talked about the Bangalore method. Right? And then now we shall move on to the manure pits, right? So now let's talk about the D. This is the manual pits, right? Okay, guys. So D we are going to talk about now, that is the manual pits. Okay. Manual pits are nothing, here actually we are actually talking about, it's not the manual, it will be called as the manure pits, right? Actually it will be called as the manure pits, right? So in the manure pits, basically we are actually using it in the rural areas, right, or the agriculture areas, right? There the two pits will be formed, and that's how the waste will be actually disposed of over there. So they will be actually, they will be forming the two pits. The two pits are formed over there, right? And mostly it is used in the rural areas. Okay, rural areas. Fine. The next method which we shall talk about, that is the burial method. Next method which we shall talk about over here, that is the burial method, right? In the burial method, as the name suggests, we will be burying off something. What will be burying over here? Obviously that could be the garbage, or that could be the rubbish, that is, I mean the solid waste, right? So here we will be making up the pit, right? We're making up the pit. Here it would be having the length of around 1.5 centimeter and height and width of around 1.5 meter. I mean the meter only. Length is around 1.5 meter and height and width of around 1.5 to 2 meters over there. And these kind of pits are actually made, and the waste will be disposed of over there. So basically in this, if we are saying that if the length of that particular pit is actually at least 1 meter, then it is useful, or it is appropriate for the 200 people for 7 days. I mean it can handle the waste of around 200 people for about 7 days. So what I said is that if the length of the pit is around 1 meter, then it can actually accommodate the waste for of people of around 200 people for 7 days, right? So it is usually appropriate for, right, appropriate for 200 people, right, for 7 days, for about 7 days, right? That's all you need to remember in this particular method. And now we shall move on to the next method, that is a dumping. Now dumping is not a very good method, guys. Dumping, it means like you are just throwing the waste here and there, and it is actually most insanitary method for the waste disposal, right? So basically one question asked once, it is the most insanitary method, right? Most insanitary method of waste disposal, right? And it is not used actually, right? And one should not dispose of any kind of waste by the dumping method. It means you are literally dumping your waste over there. You are eating something and you just dump it off over any place, right? So that is not good, obviously. So this is the most insanitary method of waste. Which of the following is the most insanitary method of waste disposal? Dumping is that method, right? Okay. And is it used? No, it should not be used actually, right? So once we have talked about the solid waste, guys, in the solid waste we have talked about the methods of disposal, and the highlight of the solid waste were the composting, in which we have talked about the Bangalore method, right? Along with that, we have talked about the manure, we have talked about the burial method, we have talked about the dumping is not used actually, and in the very first one I told you about the control tipping, where I have talked about the trench method, right? Trench method, ramp method and area method, but trench method was very commonly used, right? Okay guys, now we shall move on to the liquid waste, right? So now let's move, if we talk about the liquid waste, guys, right? If we talk about the liquid waste, guys, here we shall talk about two things, right? I told you already that one is the sewage, that is the gray water, one is the sewage, that is the black water. Sewage is not carrying actually the fecal matter. Sewage is carrying the fecal matter, that's why it is black in color. So again guys, if you talk about the liquid waste, right, sewage, I will be writing it with black color because it is called as the black, it is called as the black only. And here I shall use the gray color because it is sewage, it is actually called as the gray water, right? So here sewage is actually, this is the gray water, and this is the black water, right? Black water. So the point over here is, if you talk about the sewage, over here, that is our concern, right? That is our concern because that is the black water. Now if we talk about the sewage, we should know about the strength of sewage. So for estimating the strength of sewage, we are having some methods, right? Let's talk about that methods. So let's talk about, the point over here is, let's talk about the strength of sewage, guys. Let's talk about the strength of sewage. Okay, so we are having some methods to estimate the strength of sewage, and that's why the question has been asked repeatedly from this particular topic. So very first one which we shall talk about over here, that is the biochemical oxygen demand, guys. Okay, that is the biochemical oxygen demand, and in short, very popularly, it is actually called as BOD, that is the biological oxygen demand. So let's talk about the BOD. What is BOD, biochemical oxygen demand, and what we are talking about in this particular thing, right? So basically BOD is actually a standard test, right? It is a standard test, and it is an indicator. It is an indicator of what? It is an indicator of organic content of sewage, and this was your MCQ, guys. It is an indicator of organic content of sewage. So please do remember that has already been tested. So it is the indicator of what? BOD is an indicator of what? That is the question. So organic content of sewage, very, very important, right? Second point over here, which we need to know of under the category of biochemical oxygen demand is, so what is BOD in itself, guys? BOD, if you will be defining the BOD, actually, we are talking about the sewage, we are talking about the strength of the sewage. So actually, it is talking about the strength of the sewage. How it is talking about, I mean, how you can define the BOD. You can define the BOD by saying that, it is actually the amount of oxygen which is absorbed by the sewage during defined specific temperature and the defined specific period. I mean, what is the specific temperature? That is generally around 20 degrees Celsius. And what about the defined period? That is generally around 5 days, right? So basically, if we talk about the biochemical oxygen demand, how we shall define the biochemical oxygen demand actually. So it is one of the method to check for the estimation of the sewage disposal, right? I mean the sewage. So it is actually defined as the amount of oxygen which is getting absorbed, absorbed by sewage during, I told you, during specific period and specific temperature. During specific period, and what period I am talking about? It is generally 5 days. It is generally 5 days, right? And specific temperature also. And usually this temperature generally is around 20 degree Celsius, right? So the amount of oxygen absorbed by the sewage, right, within a specific period of generally 5 days and specific temperature of around generally 20 degrees Celsius for the aerobic destruction of sewage by living microorganism. For aerobic destruction by living microorganisms, right? Organisms. In short, guys, if I will be drawing the diagram for the same, if let's say this is the sewage, right? Right? How much amount of oxygen it will be getting? It will be actually absorbing, right? It will be actually absorbing actually. So how much amount of O2 it is absorbing? How much amount of O2 it is absorbing within a limit of around temperature of 20 degrees Celsius and specific period will be 5 days, right? So in this particular time phase, how much amount of oxygen it is absorbing from the sewage, right, by the living microorganism, that will be called as this one. So instead of writing sewage in this box, right, instead of writing sewage from this box, right, I should write the living microorganisms, right? So I should write the microorganisms over here, the microorganisms, right, because they are the one who are actually absorbing it from the sewage, right? And here I should be writing the sewage, right? So the sewage, and it is carrying the oxygen. So microorganisms are actually absorbing the oxygen from the sewage, right, in this particular range. That is temperature I told you, that is 20 degrees Celsius, and days I told you, that is specific period I told you, that is about 5 days. Now there is a range for this biochemical oxygen demand. If we talk about the range of biochemical oxygen demand, range of BOD, that is biochemical oxygen demand, that is around 100 to 300 milligram per liter. And on the basis of that, we can say that is it a strong sewage or is it a weak sewage? Now the question they are usually asking you, they will be giving you the range. They shall ask you that if it is less than 100 milligram per liter, right, what BOD? If the BOD or the biochemical oxygen demand, if it is less than 100 milligram per liter, or if the BOD is more than 300 milligram per liter, what you can say for that, right? If the BOD or biochemical oxygen demand, guys, if it is less than 100, then we shall say that this is the easily degradable waste, or we shall say that it is the weak sewage. We shall say that it is the weak sewage. If it is a weak sewage, we shall say that it is not easily degradable, okay? It is not easily degradable. Please remember that, not easily degradable, okay? And if it is a degradable waste, easily degradable waste, then it should be having biochemical oxygen demand more than 300, okay? And it will be a strong sewage. It will be a strong sewage, right? And actually it is easily degradable. So please do remember that both of these are your MCQs in itself, right? Both of these are your MCQs in itself. So please do remember that, okay? Once you have talked about that, now, if they will be saying the range between 100 to 300, that is normal. This is the moderate sewage. The range I told you, that is your very important 100 to 300, and you should not forget this, right? Once you have talked about the biochemical oxygen demand, now we shall move on to the next method. So once we have talked about the biochemical oxygen demand, that is a BOD, now we shall move on to the chemical oxygen demand, that is the COD. And COD is not the cash on delivery, guys, of course. COD over here is the chemical oxygen demand, right? So now we shall move on to the second method, right? So first method was the biochemical oxygen demand. Now we shall move on to the second method, that is COD, that is the chemical oxygen demand, right? Chemical oxygen demand. So for now, just forget this diagram, we'll talk about that later on, but for now let me talk about the chemical oxygen demand, right? Okay, chemical oxygen demand, basically you can see over here. Now we will be using the chemical for the waste disposal. We will be using the chemical to treat the waste, basically over here. So it is mostly used when sewage is containing the toxic matter or toxic waste. So it is mostly used when sewage contains toxic waste, when sewage is carrying the toxic waste. So in those conditions, we need to actually use the chemical method for the waste disposal, for this particular treatment of the waste, right? Secondly, it is actually here in this method we are using the pure oxidizing agent. So we are using pure oxidizing agents, right? Pure oxidizing agents are used over here in this particular category, right? Next point over here, that we are using the chemicals over here. So amount of chemical which is used to detoxify the sewage, that is actually called as your chemical oxygen demand. So basically the amount of chemical, it is actually the amount of chemical which is used in detoxifying the waste, or detoxifying the sewage, because we are talking about the sewage over here, that is called generally as your chemical oxygen demand. That whatever amount of chemical is used for detoxification of any kind of sewage over there, that is the chemical oxygen demand. One more method we are having in the strength of sewage category, that is one I told you, that is the biochemical oxygen demand. Second I told you, that is the chemical oxygen demand, and third one which I am telling you, that is the suspended solids. So let's talk about that method as well. So now let's talk about the third method in this category, in the strength of sewage, basically, that is the suspended solids. Like in the biochemical oxygen demand, I told you the range between the 100 to 300 milligram per liter. Here also we are talking about the range, and the range over here in this category, the normal range over here in this category, that is in between in the BOD I told you 100 to 300. Over here 100 to 500 milligram per liter. So in a case if the question says that less than 100, right? What is less than 100? Less than 100 suspended solids, right? Less than 100 milligram per liter suspended solid, or they are saying more than 500 milligram per liter, right? Suspended solids. So in these category you can easily answer that if they are saying that less than 100, it means it is a weak sewage. And if it is more than 500, it will be a strong sewage, right? So please do remember that as well. Very important, right? Now once we have talked about that, one important point I would like to tell you over here is, we shall talk about that later on, okay? And this one too, okay? One more important point is, once they had asked us, noting point over here is that once they had asked us that what is dry weather flow, they had asked us what is dry weather flow. What is dry weather flow? From this particular topic they had asked. Dry weather flow is nothing but the amount of sewage which is actually flowing through the sewer system, okay? Flowing through the sewerage system or the sewage system in a 24 hours. The amount of sewage which is flowing through the sewerage system in 24 hours time period, that is called as your dry weather flow. Are you understanding? So very easy, guys. I am just writing it over here for your convenience part. So amount of sewage which is actually flowing through sewage system in what time period? That is important. System in 24 hours. So time period might be changed in the options, 24 hours, 12 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, these kind of options might be there, but the time period over here I'm telling you that is a 24 hours, guys, please remember that. So it will be known as your dry weather flow. So dry weather flow will be called as amount of sewage which is flowing through sewage system in 24 hours, that is your dry weather flow. That is kind of your booster point.